Welcome everyone to this council study session on January 26, 2026, 6 p.m. Council Chambers, 111 East Maple. And Madam Interim City Manager, we have the Visit Independence update, if I'm correct.
We do, and I'd like to go ahead and ask Allison Calvin to make her way to the podium. She is the Executive Director of the Convention Visitors Bureau, which is now most commonly known as Visit Independence. She's been here for, roughly 6 months now, and is going to take the opportunity this evening just to update the council on what's been going on with Visit Independence.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to share all about our organization and what we've been doing for the last 6 months, as well as some of our plans for the rest of 2026. My presentation will highlight some of the progress and momentum that we've made, but also the forward-looking approach to drive tourism to our community. We'll cover our new brand launch, as you can see on the screen, marketing performance, sales and hotel data, staffing updates, and what's ahead. So 2025 was a historic year. Our brand new organization formed, and we launched our brand, Visit Independence. We will review this in more details in a few minutes, but some of the highlights from our first 6 months are the brand launch. We have contracted with a company that specializes in tourism for our sales database and website creation and management. We have started, thank you, the 2026 Visitor's Guide that will be here and printed in the next 4 weeks. We've started hiring a wonderful staff and have a great team. And we have hosted 20 international travel suppliers, and we took them to the Truman Library in the Independence Square in conjunction with the Missouri Tourism Office. We are housed out of the Truman Depot and had our brand launch event, and I know a few of you were able to make it, so thank you for being there. This was a huge milestone for our organization, and we had representatives from Manhattan, Kansas, Warrensburg, and Jeff City, and really saw the independence community, but also the tourism community come together to celebrate our organization and our brand launch. This is our primary logo for our organization. The branding process was no small feat. Reactor Design out of Kansas City had a long, fantastic process in place to secure this brand. They worked with board and stakeholders on the vision of what they want our brand to encompass and showcase what we think of ourselves as independents, but also what we want people to think of us in the future as. It's a modern logo that represents the history, but also the growth of our city. And locally, you might see this logo without Missouri on it, but as we go out and sell and market to other destinations in our target markets, we're adding Missouri, as there's a lot of other independence cities. Some of our primary markets we'll share here in a bit that you'll see the Missouri logos. Our secondary logos are for smaller placements where a long horizontal logo may not best fit. And we didn't want to be repetitive with our website on branding, so the second logo on the bottom represents our website. And our brand voice. This is something that I'm very proud of, that Reactor and our board and our team worked very hard to create. The three main brand voice words are storied, steadfast, and neighborly. So our brand voice is a vision that you turn and say out loud, and they really make that big stuff feel manageable for the potential traveler as they are hopefully looking to come to Independence. Storied is never dry, textbook, or generic. Steadfast is never trendy, reactive, or uncertain. And neighborly is never cold, corporate, or overly polished. So these are our brand voice that will guide our marketing principles as we move forward. If you have a minute, Independence is a good, honest town full of history that shaped a nation and folks who welcome you like family. If you have a minute more, it is where President Truman grew up, where the trail started, where the rails expanded, and where stories live on. Not in a textbook, but right here on the streets and in the homes of everyday people. If you have a little bit longer, this town isn't a city of marble and glass. It has heart, grit, and is a place where stories are being made every day. Whether you're passing through or staying a while, here you can be a part of a community that's growing and welcoming all who come. So while the brand has not been used, but for the last month, we've been able to solidify 2 key print marketing ads in the Visit Kansas City Annual Visitors Guide and the Missouri Travel Guide. And we're really excited to be able to showcase our new brand and new website through those. Our digital marketing efforts have started, but will really kick off as we launch our new website by May 1st. Our target markets are along I-70, St. Louis, Omaha, Tulsa, and those are only a few, but a really significant amount of cities that will represent Independence throughout. The slide shows our social media presence. We took over the social media in November, and as you can see, compared to November of 2024, the views and engagement are up over 90% since we've taken that over. The numbers on the screen are our hotel performance, January through November. So as you can see, the average daily rate is about $95, and occupancy was at 56. I did just, however, receive the year-end numbers, and occupancy year-to-date landed at 55.8%, and that is right in the middle of the average of our comp set across Missouri. Average daily rate was $95.05, and the growth compared to 2024, occupancy has grown 6.8%, which is fantastic, and that is the second largest growth in our comp set, right next to Jeff City at 7.5. I wanted to introduce you to our team so far as we build. We've hired a director of marketing and communications, Mela Yang. If you've not met her, she is a fantastic asset for our community. She's on the board of the Greater Kansas City Attractions Association, as well as the Kansas Tourism Marketing Awards judging panel. She has worked in tourism for over 20 years with both a brand agency and the Kansas City, Kansas DMO. A little bit about myself. I have been added to the Destinations International Small DMO Task Force for 2026. This will be my second year. I have started a CDME Destination Management Executive certification, and I am on the board of the Independent Square Association, Missouri Association of CVBs, and the Missouri River Runner. We have a very busy 6 months coming up with travel that we will be representing Independence at. We just finished up the Missouri Governor's Conference on Travel and Tourism, and we went to the Travel Writer Exchange in Wichita, where we met with over 100 travel writers pitching Independence. And upcoming, we leave next week for Missouri Tourism Day in Jeff City. Mela will be at the Destinations International Marketing Summit, and I will be at the CEO Summit. And we'll be going to the Tempest Tourism Academy. They're our database and website management company, as well as National Main Street Conference with the Independent Square Association. Our strategic plan kicked off about 2 weeks ago with our strategic plan consultant. He is focused on destination management and stewardship, so planning to really bring our residents and visitors along as we elevate our city. This process started with a 2-day site visit, and he has a really unique approach, which I'd love to share. He comes in completely blind. He does no research like a tourist normally would. He lands at the airport, puts Independence in his GPS, and he drives here and just explores. And he was drawn to the Spire, which landed him at the Independence Square, and he'd never researched it, and he was blown away by the square, the hospitality, and that from the get-go, you can tell our Independence story and the forward-thinking planning that has happened along the square. Our next step in this process is a board survey and a stakeholder survey, and so I'm very excited that you all will be able to receive that survey and would love to have your feedback to help guide the next 3 years for our organization. We are wrapping up our visitor's guide this week. We're printing 33,000 copies. We pay for about 20,000 of those to be distributed along Kansas City hotels, I-70, and Kansas City attractions because of the World Cup coming. Those are our target markets for this year for that. And the 5,000 will be distributed for free to our state tourism and welcome centers. Our new website will launch by May 1st. And we've already gathered assets. We flew in a company to do 3 days of photography and videography, and we'll have new marketing videos for generic tourism marketing as well as America 250. We are modernizing our historic trails, so we are bringing the Truman Trail, the African American Walking Trail, Civil War Trail, and Mormon Trail to a digitized platform called Banwango. Digitizing brings this to an interactive experience for the user. They can check in at the various locations for free, earn points, which then gets prizes from the Visit Independence office. We're really looking for these to help visitors get out and explore more of our community, and eventually we'll add more trails that hopefully drive economic growth to our business partners. We also have been in partnership with the Missouri State Tourism Office. We received a $10,000 grant for our new website, so that was a great first 6 weeks here in the role that we were able to secure a grant. Next is World Cup, this tiny event that's coming that we're all so excited about. We've secured quite a few marketing campaigns for that time, and one specific is through Visit KC. Our investment will go to confirmed travelers that are confirmed that they are coming to the Kansas City metro area, that will get Visit Independence information to them in hopes that they come over for a day trip or a night trip. We'll also be doing digital campaigns such as display ads and geofencing during that time at different hotels and attractions throughout the Kansas City metro. We are launching a partner extranet where all of our tourism partners will be able to go in, find out information from our team, but also create their listings for our website, upload pictures, and really tell how they want to showcase their business on our new marketing efforts. We're currently hiring a manager of sales and service. That job description is posted, and would love if you would share that if you know anyone that might be interested. So this is a brief overview of the first 6 months and what's to come, and as always, I'm happy to answer any questions or meet with all of you.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah.
Anyone, any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. I was hoping to talk about the brand a little bit, of course. So this is a good place to start. I'll just say the color isn't quite right because we have brand colors and they're a little washed out on the PowerPoint. But I wanted to point out the icons, these icons that were drawn. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is a handful of icons. We're still developing others as we grow our marketing efforts, but we wanted to be able to have some background imagery that we can put throughout a visitor's guide or a backdrop like this to showcase a unique variety of businesses and attractions, and they're interchangeable with different marketing avenues that we might be doing.
And you can add and subtract and
Correct.
whatever you need to
Yeah,
do.
so this layout is standard for some of our leisure templates, but we can add and subtract for specific backdrops or marketing campaigns as needed. And we might pull out individual iconography for different marketing efforts, or you'll see them scattered throughout our visitor's guide.
And then can you go back to the main logo page? So this logo is beautiful. I love it so much.
Thank
It's
you.
really well done. And one of the things I love about it is it's a bespoke font. So can you talk about the sort of concept behind the font?
Yeah, so this is a font that really wanted to drive the independence message clear and concise, but the visit, is a ray, if you will, of spark and sunshine to really spark creativity and curiosity in our city and focus on the eye.
So the independent script is hand drawn. You can't download it from the internet. It's ours. It's ours alone. I just want to congratulate you on this. You and I talked about how it's so perfect. And then the secondary logos are also great. And I would point out the darker blue is our main color, primary color, and then these lighter oranges are sort of secondary.
Correct, yes, so we have 3 different blues in our brand, and the middle blue will be our main logo, and these are the secondary, correct.
And what do you see using, are we going to do T-shirts, jackets, that kind of thing?
Yes, so we are working now on some of our prizes for those Banwango passports that I mentioned, and we have discussed some of the higher end prizes if you earn more points by visiting a lot of those attractions or partners, being able to get some branded items. So we're working on those currently.
Great. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
I'm on the digital marketing page, so those numbers are really good for just a couple months.
Thank you.
That's crazy. What social media platforms are you on? Are you on all of them?
So Facebook and Instagram, and we are still trying to get access to the YouTube.
So I'm thinking that's maybe why the younger demographic is a little bit lower, because Facebook is for us old people, maybe. So you think that age group will hit YouTube better?
Yeah, and if we ever expand to TikTok, although that's ever changing on recommended for the tourism industry, but definitely something that we'll look at. And as we do paid campaigns moving into 2026, we can target specific age groups or demographics with our social campaigns.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, other questions? Please proceed.
Thank you. For people who don't do this every day, who were listening to your presentation. You used a word that normal people don't use in conversation. Can you speak about geofencing and what that means and how you use that to drive tourism?
Yes, thank you for that question. So geofencing is, think of a fence or parameter around a location. So someone could geofence the Independence Square. So anyone that walks within this perimeter is fed digital ads. And so anyone that might be at some of the main FIFA hotels or attractions in Kansas City will be able to track that and target with digital ads anyone that went within that area, known as geofencing. And so it's really specific on the type of user that we want to get our message to.
And this is a growing activity. It isn't that Independence invented this or that we're doing surveillance on our citizens. It's that anybody who's got a device, trying to do targeted ads to them based on where they live or
Correct.
where they are. Okay.
Yep, anyone that has accepted parameters using a website or certain apps, that's how that's filtered through.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else, other questions? Well, Allison, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you very
having me.
much. And we're going to review city debt, but also I might want to make the comment that we're not going to have item number 3 on the agenda because the folks that were going to come in for the Parks Master Plan couldn't travel due to the weather, so we're going to postpone item number 3 till when?
They'll be presented at the study session on February 9th.
February 9th? Okay. So that way this meeting will be shorter and we can condense that down and away we go. So very good. Okay. And Madam Interim City Manager, please introduce the next concept.
All right, our Finance Director, Melissa Cabrera, will be coming up to discuss. We've had several questions lately just related to debt in general, whether it was TIF debt or facility, construction debt, now GeoBond issuances. All of those things have just given rise to several questions. So Ms. Cabrera has taken the time to assemble just an overview of all of those debt issuances and to bring those forward to you this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So I have presented or put together a presentation for you. It's pretty long. I'm going to try to move through it as quickly as possible. So please, if you have questions, feel free to stop me. I do mean this just to be an overview of it. When we get to the end, I have a little bit more detail that I just want to talk about, particularly when it comes to the TIF debt. But I'm just going to move through it. Stop me as questions come up, please. So we're going to talk about outstanding debt, breakdown by debt category. I'm going to show you some tables I've pulled out of the ACFR so that you're able to go through, look at these tables, see how things are changing year over year, and kind of track what we're doing with the debt. I want to talk a little bit about the TIF supplemental fund, and then because I'm doing through fiscal year end 2025, I've got a final slide that will just talk about the general obligation debt that came in September of 2025, so after that fiscal year ended. So this table is actually found in our ACFR. It provides a breakdown of our debt by category and separates it into governmental activities as well as business type. So your business type will include your water, your sewer, your power and light, and it includes the event center in that. On the governmental side, it obviously has your TIF loans payable, finance purchase obligations, and then our other loans and bonds payable. You can see that from fiscal year 24-25, in most of those categories, we saw a reduction in our debt as we were making those debt service payments, with the exception of the loans and bonds payable. That is solely due to the issuance of our bond project that went out for the fire and the police stations. So it did increase, but obviously the older issuances and loans that we have there saw a decrease. So I've kind of gone smallest to largest. This first one are two of our finance purchase obligations. These are a Caterpillar lease and a Motorola lease. original amount was about 1.4 million that we financed for these, and we are less than 600,000 now in remaining principal balances. You'll see for the Caterpillar lease that we will pay that off by this fiscal year end, and then we will just be left with the Motorola lease. So for the Caterpillar lease, this is paid for through the street improvements sales tax fund and was for a piece of equipment. And the Motorola Solutions is radio equipment, and this is something that general fund police sales tax fund pays for, as well as enterprise funds and the stormwater sales tax fund. This is also something that we work as kind of a hub and have radios and things that we send out to some of the other local jurisdictions like the school district, and then there's some other cities and things that also help contribute to this lease payment.
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
Just to be clear, Melissa, on the Motorola, so what you're saying is that a number of different departments utilize those radios.
Yes.
And other jurisdictions as well. Like
Yes.
school district, Sugar Creek, whoever. And so they each pay their pro rata portion of the overall
Yes.
cost of that, right?
Yes, it's billed out annually. So we work with the police department to get the number of radios for each jurisdiction or department internally, and so we send out bills for that. We do have this centralized in the general fund, and then the other funds will pay into the general fund so that we make one payment from there.
Okay,
That
thank you.
makes sense. Okay, so now we're going to talk about loans and bonds payable. So we have three here. We've got the street lease purchase, and I'll get on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about what these are specifically. We have the building lease purchase that is for the IMC, and then we have the newest issuance, which is the public safety debt that we issued last year. So you can see that at fiscal year end, we did not have any payments due yet for that public safety 2025A issue. So it's still remaining at the full amount. We have since made our first debt payment on that. And then you can see on the other two that we have been paying down those balances. So the lease purchase for deferred maintenance there, that is paid for through the street improvements sales tax fund. The IMC building is through the general fund, but this is another one of those instances where we may have other funds that pay in rent to the general fund for that facility and the areas that they occupy there. And then obviously the last one is the public safety projects, and that is split between our fire sales tax fund and the marijuana sales tax fund. Okay, moving on. We've got loans and bonds payable, and these are the business type. So we've got a couple here for power and light. I didn't put them on the slide because it gets a little bit long, but there's not a good description here, but I'll walk you through what each of these are. So you can see here the par amounts, and on that power and light 2016D, we have not yet made any principal payments on that. We have made some principal payments on the 2022A and 2022B. It was for a specific design that we're not making the principal or not making principal payments on the 2016D, and that's all related to the way that the debt service payments go out. So the 2022 A's and B's were refunding some prior issuances, and they structured it this way so that the debt service payments would not be too much for power and light to bear. Just a little bit about what the 2016D is. There were three categories to this: electric production, and includes maintenance and upgrades, various projects to ensure reliable operation and insurance compliance. We had some projects under electric transmission and distribution, which includes substation facility upgrades, switchgear and transformer replacements, among other things. And then in general administration, which includes service center facility upgrades. It was a renovation on the IUC building, new customer billing system, and some other things that were included there. Do you have a question?
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. A couple of things. So it is not unusual for enterprise funds or for-profit utilities to use bond structures as ways to generate capital that they need, so they
Sure.
have a sort of a steady, stable payment. Even though
Yes.
you may have huge capital outlays that come and go, this is a way to average that out for predictability in your financing. Is that a fair description?
That's fair. In addition to, some of these projects are very costly, and if you tried to finance them as you went along, you would just never be able to keep up. Yes.
And we've refinanced. Why would you refinance debt? Because some of them we've either paid off early or we've chosen to refinance. And just rationale.
Well, generally, refinancing is to save long-term interest, because it may not be in the best interest to just pay it off, but you could be paying a higher interest rate. You may need to refinance that plus roll it into a new project, and just do it in ways that you have structured payments so you know what to expect and you're able to do your cash flow better, for 15, 20, 30 years, whatever your term is.
And the agencies who finance our debt look at us to be sure that we aren't over leveraged, that we actually have the cash flow in order to make the payments. And this is kind of a normal means of doing business in the utilities. This
Yes.
isn't different than anybody else.
It's no different than anyone else, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
just to piggyback a little bit on the interest rates and stuff like that, depending on the issuance and stuff, as I was doing some pre-reading before the council meeting, some of these interest rates are pretty low with some of their issuance that you would not be able to get now if we were to refinance. So we don't always refinance, but if you look at some of the interest rates that we have, it's, I don't want to say free money, but it's cheap.
It is cheap, and I will say on some of these issuance, like the 2016 D, we just now are at the point, sorry, I guess we're still on this slide. We're just now at the point that we could look at even refinancing that. It's just at the point of an optional redemption after 10 years. So, when they structure these to make them marketable to people that want to buy bonds, people want to know that they're going to get their money back, that they're going to be able to make money. And so you can't issue a bond and then automatically turn around because interest rates drop and refund it. So, okay. So the next group, I've combined water and sewer on the screen. And so you can see here that on that water 2013 D that we have paid off well over half of that from the original issuance amounts, and on our 2 sewer issues that we've also been making payments there. So on the 2013 D, this was one where there had been a lot of things that had been refinanced into it, but this was an infrastructure loan issued through the MDFB, so it was for water infrastructure, capital improvements, new transmission lines, upgrades, and things like that, extensions of sewer lines, feeding into new areas of the city, all kinds of things were rolled up into this one. And on sanitary sewer, this is another one where we had some that had been refunded. There were when you look at the official statements and you look at the projects that were included in the 2014 C particularly had a lot of products that were included in it, but essentially were various upgrades, rehabilitations of infrastructure, extensions, and other types of improvements. And then the last business type activities that we have here are the event center. So these also were refundings of prior issued bonds. This allowed us to reduce what our debt service payments were for these bonds, as well as gave us some money for capital improvements that needed to happen at the event center.
If I can ask some questions on this slide, please. So the total outstanding right now is around 76 million for the event center. So if I understand correctly, the way we're paying for the event center is there's a CID surrounding the area that's paying into the event center, because the event center doesn't produce enough revenue itself to sustain itself.
Right.
So these will run until 2038. Does the CID match that, or is there any mismatch on that? And, when would they?
I don't remember off the top of my, I'm looking over at Morris to see if he remembers when the CID 2042. So
So if the CID is running until 2042 and they pay off as anticipated, you would actually have a few years where the CID would still be paying, and it'd be a zero balance here. You'd have some possible money for renovations, fixing it up, those kinds of things.
right.
Okay.
Right. And then as I look at this, it generates enough money to pay the debt service plus some. So this is not, this is functioning with the CID as it should, and making those debt service payments, and is not an area that I'm concerned about at this point. So.
Right. My only question is, if I may ask, Madam Interim City Manager, when the CID pays off on this, and you've got the bond payments paid off, will the facility pay for itself at that point and sustain, maintenance at that point? I know it's a very tough question. You may need to answer that at another time.
I will have to answer that at another time. There's some predicting, right, that goes into that.
Right.
Obviously not self-sufficient today, and some of that will, as any facility ages, other new capital improvements will have to be made. So we could just find ourselves in that cycle of having to fund different debt, or using that those funds that are available to not paying debt service to fund capital projects in the future. And that's why I say I'm not certain, because there will always be better equipment, facility upgrades that need to be made, and things like that, especially in a facility of that type.
Okay. Thank you very much. I didn't mean to surprise you with that question, but
Totally fine.
I'm glad they matched. I'm glad there's a gap there at the end, so that these bonds zero out and you've got some proceeds from the CID in that time frame. That's very good. Thank you, Melissa. And
You're welcome.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem at all. So this is just a breakdown. It shows you the payments. Again, very good interest rates compared to what we've seen more recently. Okay, and then I assume this is probably what is the star of the show and what most people are going to be interested in. So we're going to talk a little bit about our TIF and special districts. You see I've got two tables here. One is with city appropriation, and that top table. So this is the one that we would have to determine how we're going to make the payments if the district is not able to sustain itself. And down on the bottom is one of the newer projects in town, but it is not paid for with city appropriation. So on the top there, we've got Centerpoint TIF project. We have bond payoff in 2028. The TIF was originally approved in December of 2004, and the TIF terminates in 2028 as well. This is one that has been able to make its own debt service payments. I don't see any need that it will not be able to do so through the end of its life. It has a debt service reserve that's available to it to be able to pay off the final debt payment. So next one is Cracker Neck Creek. You can see bonds outstanding are about 73.6 million. Bond payoff is in 2051. The TIF was approved in October of 2004. And I've got TIF termination there. That is not correct. That should be 2028 as well. So it is one where the TIF terminates. So we lose those supplemental EATs and pilots that we're getting from other local jurisdictions, and it would be on the city to make those debt service payments for that area. And then last one is the Santa Fe TIF. Bonds outstanding are about $6.8 million. The bonds pay off in 2044. TIF was approved in December of 1997, and the TIF there has already terminated in 2023. And this is another one where long-term it will not sustain itself, and city will be responsible for those appropriations.
And so you and I talked about this before, but I just wanted to clarify this for folks who might be watching. The way that we're paying for these non-performing TIFs is through other TIFs that have excess funds to basically bring those in to pay for those, if I'm correct.
Yes. So I'll
you've
do
already
this
got
one,
it up
and then
there.
and then we're
Sorry, I
we're-
jumped
yep.
ahead. Please forgive me.
We're going to get into the TIF supplemental fund, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. So again, this is from our ACFR, and it shows those outstanding TIF loans payable at $90.2 million. I just want to say, when I was doing my research, I pulled a 2014 ACFR, and the same table in there had outstanding TIF loans payable of $165 million. So in the past 11 years, we've nearly cut that amount in half. So we have been making great strides in that. Some of these are retired TIFs. It included Drum Farm, Crackerneck Creek, the HCA Center Point TIF, Eastland, Hartman Heritage, and Santa Fe. So of those, we've got 3 remaining. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about the TIF supplemental appropriation policy. So this was passed in 2021. There was a team of city staff, our bond counsel, and we hired Baker Tilly to come in and help us formulate a plan for how we would pay for these underperforming TIFs long term. Specifically, it identified it for the Crackerneck Creek, so this came a couple years after there were some pretty substantial payments that the general fund had to subsidize that caused some issues for long-term or operational. I believe in the around 2014 to our general fund budget. So one of the first things that they did was they went in and refunded some of the prior bonds that had been issued into a more manageable debt service payment that took it out, obviously much longer than the life of the TIF. Obviously to better manage the city's cash flow, plan for annual appropriations by increasing the likelihood that funds will be available to pay for these city-supported tax increment financing obligations. Also, this helped us to levelize the budget, so we're able to plan longer term and minimize year-to-year impacts. And to maintain this was also to help us maintain a market for city-supported TIF obligations by demonstrating proactive, prudent financial management. All of this is found in that TIF supplemental appropriation policy. So if you need a copy of that, let me know. I can also post it online. So the plan that was developed was supplemental fund financing. And so it prescribes that the fund will be financed through voluntarily directed, legally available funds consisting of new revenues generated by our EATs and our pilots. In the EATs, they identified that we would use monies from general sales tax, street sales tax, parks, and stormwater. And then on the pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. So this is on real estate taxes for anyone that's not familiar with that term. From the general property tax as well as the health and recreation property tax. So,
Mayor,
Please proceed.
okay. Can we just go back a couple of slides? I want to be sure that people don't lose the thread here. The TIF payable, you said, has gone down from 165 million down to 90 million. Okay, so while we're talking about big dollars here and a lot of leverage, I think it's really important for people who are listening to realize that the fiscal discipline to pay down these debts is being applied. We are paying off decisions long before we ended up on this dais. But we also made some additional changes in that we do not guarantee debt for development projects so that we don't get ourselves in a position where we owe additional debt. Is
Yes.
that okay? And skipping ahead here, the next, yes. This is new revenue generated by activity. I don't want people to think that we are diverting street sales tax from existing projects or park sales tax from existing projects. Can you just really clarify this? Because this could be a very confusing slide if you look at it by itself.
Sure. So these would be in TIF projects as they close. When the dollars would normally be going to pay for that debt service, they have been redirected into the TIF supplemental fund as they apply, but only for those project areas. And so we record them. So Drum Farm has closed. I'm sorry, I have to remember some of the other names. Eastland, Hartman Heritage. As those have closed, we redirect them into this TIF supplemental fund. This is located, you can find it in the financials if you're ever interested to see, what's being deposited in there. You're able to go in and look and see what's in that fund. It's updated every month, so you are able to go and see that.
And the TIF supplemental fund would be used to pay down debt.
Yes, when we have underperforming TIFs,
Okay.
it would be used specifically for that.
And it can't be used for operations, it can't be diverted to anything else. It's designed just to be able to address paying down that underperforming TIF,
Yes.
essentially to take care of debt.
For the debt service payments, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the ongoing maintenance of this fund, the fund shall be maintained at a level determined by the City Council to be sufficient to support debt service on city-supported TIF obligations. Retention requirements shall be set for each fiscal year by the City Council at the same time in connection with the adoption of the city's budget for such fiscal year. Now, in the time that I have been here, we have not done this. And so it will be part of the budget process this year. So we will be having conversations. We'll be looking at what the needs are coming up in the next few fiscal years, looking at the fund balance, determining what needs to be in there long term, and the best ways to appropriate those dollars in the TIF supplemental fund.
Can you clarify that for me? You said in the past, we haven't done this, we're going to do this year. Help me understand that. It went right over my head. Please forgive me.
Sure. So prior to this, I was the budget manager. We thus far have not used the funds in here to supplement the debt. And so it has started to build kind of that fund balance in it. From what I can understand, we've had several finance directors in several years. So this was first implemented in 2021. And so it just hasn't been done yet. So again, we haven't needed the funds to do it. We've been building up that fund balance to get it in a place that it can support it, but now is the time that we should be bringing it to the forefront, discussing it, and coming up with our long-term plan for it.
Mr. Mayor, I might just mention for those that are really interested in some of this, and Melissa will get into it more, I'm sure, is that at the Audit and Finance committee meetings, we review these regularly
Yes.
and discuss these regularly. So if somebody really has a lot of interest in this stuff, I would just refer them either to past Audit and Finance committees or certainly invite them to come to future ones.
Certainly.
And Mr. Mayor?
Please proceed.
It's my understanding that you can't just pay off a bond because you would like it to go away. There are particular times when you can pay down the actual principal as opposed to the interest. So sometimes it makes sense that you leave it in your bank account until you reach the point where you can make a payment to reduce the principal. Is that fair?
That's fair, yes. And I mean, we're just getting to the point that would even be a possibility or something that we could look at, yes. And so also in that policy, it prescribed who should be responsible for this and what we should do in order to maintain it. So we have a city manager designee, which would be your finance director. general fund 5-year financial model. So we update that. We bring it to you. You probably see it the most whenever we do our mid-year financial update. We have a long-term available revenue model, so I've just completed doing an update of that, so staff does maintain that. And I have just done a true-up after the end of the last fiscal year. My intent would be to start bringing that a little bit more to the forefront and having conversations about it as we go forward. And then bond counsel, so, we retain David Martin, who often helps us on bond issuances, and so he will obviously play a crucial role ongoing with us. So right now in the TIF supplemental fund, we have a $14 million balance. And then in my preliminary analysis, so looking at that long-term supplemental fund, forecasting it out, I expect an initial debt service supplement will be needed in fiscal year 2028. So in each of those TIF funds, if you look at the financials, you will see that they have fund balances. You will look at them, they appear like they have quite strong fund balances, which they do, but much of that is restricted for the debt service reserve. So they're not dollars that we can use. So in 2028 is the first year that I would see that unreserved fund balance start to dip, and that we would need to look at making a supplemental payment for it.
All right, help me understand, what do you mean make a supplemental payment towards it?
Because in those individual TIF funds, we will want to make sure that we don't end up with a negative fund balance, or we don't want to end up with a fund balance that drops below the debt service reserve requirement. And so in order to do that, because the debt service payments will be more than that fund can manage on its own, we would need to do a transfer out from our TIF supplemental fund into whichever TIF fund does not have enough available resources.
So you're basically saying the fund balance at the beginning of FY 2026 was 14 million and some change.
Yes.
So we've got that fund balance now. So what you're saying is, if I'm hearing you correctly, if it was 2028 that you were talking about? Okay. So in 2028, what we would need to do is to tap some of those funds in order to, kind of be a cushion to that. And it wouldn't be a scenario where we have to hit general funds or anything like that.
Correct.
The supplemental fund would be the one that takes the bump for that.
Correct.
Okay. But we've also got enough rolling into it to kind of keep it moving in a positive direction, and not anything for us as a council to go, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Right.
So from your long-term perspective and long-term projections are, the fund balance can pay for it, as well as the TIFs that are rolling in, because we've got various TIFs that are aging out, just like with the example of the arena. So you've got 4 or 5 years there at the end where you'll have you don't have to make the bond payment for the arena. You could take some of those funds at that point and apply them to the non-performing TIFs so that the city has revenue to cover those costs.
Correct. Yes. The point is to not end up with a significant general fund obligation that would then reduce our services and operational standards. Yes. Yes.
Very, very good. Thank you. I just wanted to understand it and get the clarity on it. Thank you very much for your patience.
And as it goes on, I mean, this is going to be something that we'll have to review at least annually, if not more often, because as it prescribes, as a TIF retires, if the bonds are paid off, then those funds would then begin to flow into this fund. So we would just need to review it annually, determine if there's anything that could be released back, if we don't need to continue to do that, and just determine long term. Okay. I will say it's working well. It's doing exactly what it was expected to do. But one of the things that we have to monitor going forward are some things that are happening in Jeff City. So I just went to a kind of a luncheon with Missouri Municipal League. They talked a little bit about elimination of the state income tax. and some ways that the state would need to offset those revenues, and it could potentially have some impact on our sales tax collections and on our real estate tax collections. And so we just have to monitor that going forward and figure out what impact would that have on these existing TIFs, particularly ones that we have, that we're required to back up and pay from general fund if they're unable to meet their debt service requirements, because we certainly don't want to be in a situation in 2 to 3 years as they're phasing, if it goes through in Jeff City and they are able to eliminate that income tax. If it comes through, we don't want to be in a position where we have significant revenue shortfalls.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions for that to clarify. And so what I'm hearing you say is that they may actually reach in and grab some of the property tax funds that are already allocated elsewhere, and they may actually reach in and grab some of the sales tax monies that we collect in order to meet their goals of paying off their obligations.
So that's not exactly what would happen.
Okay, and that's why I asked. So
Yes,
thank you for the clarification.
That's not exactly what would happen. One of the ideas that's kind of floating around there's no solid plans yet, so we're entirely up in the air for it, just kind of watching what may happen. One of the things that's kind of floated around as an idea for that, if they did nothing else but increase their sales tax rates, one of the things that we learned they would likely need to increase about 4 times in order for them to be able to support the reduction in income tax at the funding levels it's at right now. What that would mean in some of these areas, that we would be seeing probably 17-18% sales tax, if that's how the state did it. Obviously, that would not be very popular. So one of the other options that they would have would be to expand some of the services and items that you're not paying tax on now would become taxable, and so that would increase their tax base. It would generate more tax income for them. But the idea would be that local governments would not just be able to enjoy those expanded tax bases and see a large influx in retail sales value in their city, and that we would then be required to go in and reduce either our sales tax percentages to offset some of that revenue, reduce our property tax levy, or the other option is if you're a city that has your own local income tax, that you would need to reduce that. So they would be looking for ways for local jurisdictions to offset the increases that they would see by getting a larger tax base.
Wow.
Yes.
In my opinion, that's frightening, and I appreciate the perspective on that. Wow. I don't have any words. I don't know if we have words for this, but this is
Mr.
just.
Mayor,
Yeah, please, you're going to help me. Thank you.
Just one comment about that. So I was at the same luncheon that Melissa was at, and, there's a lot of bills in Jeff City going on about this. It remains to be seen what, if anything, might happen there. So I think until we get down the road a ways, it's pretty premature to try to speculate on what could happen relative to this. It's just, I think Melissa's point really is we just have to monitor things, stay abreast of what's happening at Jeff City, and see if and how that impacts us here in Independence.
Yeah. But I would say this, the governor in his state address did say cutting income tax is a priority, and that's one of the things that he wants to accomplish. When I've been down in Jeff City and the governor gets on that platform and says that to the Senate and the House, many times what they say does come to fruition. It may not be exactly what you're saying, but I've rarely seen it where a governor makes a statement like that and doesn't get their way. So I recognize that it's preliminary, I recognize that it's a discussion point, but also recognize that you've got a governor with a supermajority that it can, in fact, drive this wedge through. I mean, in my opinion, it'll probably, I would go to a sports betting book place right now, and by the end of this year, by the end of next year, it will happen. Now, what format and all of that is well up for grabs, but my experience there, I can assure you, when the governor says they want it, and you see leadership from both the Senate and the House not bucking on it too much, and we haven't seen that yet, I think it'll happen. Anyway, that's me editorializing. I need to stop. But thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt. I hope we didn't interrupt your presentation. If there's anything else that you need to add.
Sure. So I thank you, Councilmember Fears. I certainly don't mean to bring it as like the sky is falling, but as we're continuing to have these discussions, it is one of the areas that makes forecasting difficult. I don't think it would be something that would be implemented immediately. That would be very difficult to do from the state level, but it is something that we have to take into account and keep in mind as we're going through with, forecasting out and how these payments will take place.
May I add one thing?
Please.
As a reminder, people often ask us, well, why didn't we get to vote on this, or why do we get to vote on that? Taxes are one thing that you have to vote on, so this is something that would come back to Missouri voters to decide if they wanted to change the Constitution and eliminate income tax. But the hard part is that the plan for how they replace it comes after the vote.
Correct.
So that's just one of the issues to pay attention to. So thank you.
Yes, there are several steps it would take for them to be able to accomplish eliminating the income tax. But yes, Councilmember McCandless was spot on with that. So thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I got us off track, and please proceed.
Sure. So really, the only other category that I have here is just the general obligation debt that was issued after the end of the fiscal year. So you can see here that the face value of the bonds was issued at $27.78 million. We've not yet made a payment on that. That comes in March. One of the things that I wanted to note with this is for the first year, we opted for an interest-only payment. And that was for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was the first year. Number two, to establish a debt service reserve. And because that payment would be larger, we opted for the interest only so that it would have less of a kind of a roller coaster effect on that tax levy for taxpayers and would make it a little bit more steady over the next several years. So there you go. You can see first payment due March 1st, 2026, followed by first principal payment on March 1st, 2027. And then on this one, there is annual payments of about $2.2 million for principal and interest, and we set that tax levy at 18 cents per $100 of assessed value for the 2025 tax year. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Please
I
proceed.
just have one. You mentioned the interest-only loan for the general obligation bond. Is that correct? And do we have any other interest-only loans out there?
So the 2016D that is in Power and Light is the other interest only. As I mentioned, it was done to keep those debt service payments fairly level because they had two large issuances.
And how much do we still owe on that? Was it on your list?
Yes. So it is 47 million.
So since 2016, you said? We've never made a principal payment on that?
That's not how the payments are structured. So we have not. This would be the first year that we would be able to potentially refund that if we wanted to and change the structure of the payments.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Other further questions? Please proceed.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
Melissa, this obviously, for the average person, these are big numbers and a lot of debt, I guess. But the question for a city our size, how would you characterize that, and how do probably more importantly, how do those organizations that rate us as a city how do they characterize them, from a bonding standpoint?
Sure. So I didn't include anything on here that has our ratings, but I mean overall our ratings are good. Last year when we were going through the debt issuances, the comments that we received were that while the city does have debt, that we are paying it down, and that more recently management has been taking a much more, and I'm paraphrasing here, this is not the exact language, but much more fiscally responsible approach to debt issuances. So again, I think, when we look at where we were at with TIF debt in 2014 to where we are today, you can see that we have paid off a significant amount of debt. In that debt, there were projects that paid themselves off early. So we've had successful projects. We've had projects that aren't as successful. And I mean, I would say just in my experience in the municipal finance world, that's not uncommon, and it occurs. So.
Thank you. Please
Mr. Mayor.
proceed.
Thank you. Councilman Fears was hitting on where I was going with our financial stability that we have and all the responsibilities that we have and the strength that we also have with our strong rating that we've got from our financial institutions. But also I was sitting here thinking, I believe it was 2018-ish, maybe 2019, that we ended up with our large reserve and our IPL that we were able to pay down some of that debt service with some chunk payments to reduce that debt service. And then also we gave a refund back to our ratepayers of $140 and some change. That was because of our high fund balance, we were able to do that for our ratepayers. And also part of our strong financial position that we've been able to do, we have a strong undesignated fund balance, which we've been able to hit our goals for that. So when the financial institutions, when we go to the bond market, they take a look at that in its totality and be able to give us a strong rating and lower interest rates. Is that a good summation of that?
Yes, certainly. It did not go unnoticed that we've been able to improve general fund greatly. That we are now meeting, the reserve requirements that were set by council. So we're exceeding the 16% minimum unreserved fund balance in that account, and so it certainly has been noticed when in the past year when we've been going through and doing these refinancings. Part of this, the 5-year general fund forecast, I mean, these are things that investors want to see, and they're things that, in the finance department, we make sure that we keep up and we watch them and monitor them very closely. They're certainly not something that we pull out once a year and look at budget time. It goes throughout the year.
And to carry the conversation just a little bit about our friends in Jeff City and the General Assembly, we keep a strong eye on the things that they do down there and some of the inner workings of their thoughts and ideas. One of the ideas that's been kicked around for the past couple of years is, do we eliminate the tax on food, which is something that sounds good and everybody could use a little extra dollars in their pocket, but the significant hit to the general fund, to the City of Independence, and I'm shooting from the hip here. I know you and I have had some conversations, and Ms. Reynolds and I have as well. We're looking at the tunes of millions of dollars annually, which, to put that into terms, we would have to be closing a George Owens, maybe a fire station, reduction in park staff. I mean, you name it. If we're having a reduction of $4 million or $5 million in a tax, we are not able to do the basic functions. So bottom line is some of the thoughts they have there at the General Assembly may look good on the chalkboard or whiteboard, depends on how old you are, just doesn't play out in reality.
Certainly, yes. Things like the grocery tax have an impact on all of our sales tax funds. So it means reduction of sales tax dollars that go to parks, fire sales tax, our police department, general fund, among others. So, yes.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes.
Anyone else? Other questions before we wrap up, please?
probably budget is the thing that we collectively worry about the most. It's also, I think, one of the hardest things for people to understand. So I want to reassure people that really you have been doing the work for long-term fiscal stability. And it is unsexy, and it is the stuff about good, solid financial management so that we reduce our overall debt, that we have a plan to pay it down, that we're thoughtful about how we reissue new. That is something separate from how much money is in the general fund. And, we have to be careful about how we budget that money to be able to pay our ongoing operations costs, which are something separate from debt.
Yes.
You think that's a reasonable explanation?
Yes.
Okay. I have to give your team so much appreciation for the incredible work that you do to do long-term financial modeling to help us say, if we make this decision today, how do we pay for it at 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years? What's long-term debt look like? These are not easy decisions because they don't just affect the council here and the city at this point, but the decisions that future councils can make and the choices that cities can make about how they invest. So I know that's a little editorializing, but I think understanding that is important. And then the last thing that I want folks to appreciate is, can you talk just for a moment about your audit process and how much work and sophistication goes into that every single year?
Yes, audit is a tremendous amount of work. So it starts pretty much immediately after the fiscal year ends. My staff, so we've got accounting managers, assistant finance director that work, for months. We wrap up mid-December on the audit. So they're basically going from beginning of August until December on trying to get all the documentation over to our independent auditors to look at, to review. And so it certainly is a lot of long nights and weekends for them in order to get that information over. You think that you've gotten to the point that they've asked all the questions, and then you open up another email where they need some more information, or they need another table, or they need something else that to help them finalize their reports. So in addition to our the city overall financial audit, we also have to do single audits if we receive, grant funds from the federal government. And then we've got 4 special districts that we also, assist in the audits for.
So it's an extensive process.
It is.
I think it's important for people to understand that you don't do the audit.
We do not.
You just prepare the paperwork so that they can come in, look at it, be sure that we are following the rules according to the way taxpayers voted, that we are implementing our own policies appropriately, and that we are booking our debits and credits the way that we are supposed to be.
Yes.
And then they are held to their own professional standards that legally they have to meet in order to sign off on an audit. So I just want people to understand there is a huge amount of work that goes into preparing for the audit, and that an external agency comes in and does that to be sure that we're doing the things that we are supposed to.
Yes, and that you're right, that external agency goes through a peer review process to make sure that they're following the rules, doing things that they should be doing. And on that note, in February, we don't have the date set, but we will be doing a special audit and finance committee meeting so that our auditor can present the 2025. ACFR to you. So, or that's the annual comprehensive financial report, the end product of the audit. So that will be upcoming very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I was just I'm glad you said that, because we don't have that date scheduled, but in February, they will be presenting our audit to us, and certainly if that's something folks are interested in, invite them to attend that or watch that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, other comments, questions? And those that are watching and might not have saw the comments earlier, the Parks Master Plan final report will not be presented tonight because of travel challenges for our presenters. They were coming from out of town, and they couldn't get here because their flights were canceled, and there were thousands of flights canceled all over the United States, so they'll be scheduled for February 9th, if I'm correct in that. So that'll take care of that. Unless anyone else has anything else. Madam Interim City Manager, do you have anything else before we call this meeting adjourned?
I was just going to announce the date for the Park Master Plan reschedule, so but nothing else tonight.
All right, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
It's all good.
Thank you very much. Now this meeting is adjourned.